How's it going? My name is Xonin, and today I'd like to talk to you about Dandadan. I was lucky enough to attend the early screening of the first 3 episodes, so shout out to my Instagram algorithm for reminding me of that. Long story short, I was blown away with what I saw. Aside from bumping the leaked OP as much as I possibly could before it was scrubbed from the internet, and I think the first 2 trailers, or I think the first teaser and then the first official trailer for it, I really had nothing to go off of, so I was definitely going into it blind, which, yes, does make me an anime only, but don't click off yet. Trust me, you can trust my opinion here, I swear. But please remember that when commenting, because you might be spoiling something for someone else, myself more importantly. Anyway, if you do happen to enjoy this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Anyway, let's jump into it. That's my tagline now. Just some overall thoughts on the movie-going experience, or I guess the theater experience before we jump into spoiler territory. I was laughing the entire screening. Like, this is a very funny show. I truly feel like Okarun's comedic timing could rival any of your favorite stand-ups. Momo had a lot of unintentionally funny lines in like the first third of it, but she's definitely a riot as you go on. I didn't expect Momo's grandma, Seiko, to be just as funny as the other two, or just be into the gags as much as she was, due to her introduction being so serious and just so like motherly in a way. But yeah, she was also a good time. I can see this series really pulling at my heartstrings with the way that it's set up the romance aspect of it, and also with how quickly you can buy into Okarun's and Momo's chemistry as a duo. At times it feels like a magical girl anime disguised as pretty much everything else, and that's not an issue for me whatsoever. As long as it kind of keeps weaving in these other genres as seamlessly as it has, even if it's less so throughout the series, I have no problem with that. And I would consider myself a very happy reader, or watcher, viewer. I'm looking forward to seeing how the animation carries on throughout the season, not because I'm skeptical, but just because I know that Dandadan has its own aesthetic, but it also seems to tap into things like Jet Set Radio and Fooly Cooly from time to time, at least in my view, and so I'm really looking forward to like seeing more of that, as well as obviously it, create its own identity. Another thing I took away from this viewing experience is that G-Kids really has made a name for itself as a distributor. This is maybe the 3rd time they've put me in a movie theater seat, and I've yet to be disappointed. They definitely don't get enough respect though, at least from the theaters themselves, because 5 minutes before the screening was over, the lights cut on in the theater, and that kind of not ruined, but did put a little bit of a damper on the last 2 minutes or so of the ending of the episode. And then also, you just have to watch the cool ending sequence in, a dim lit room rather than a completely dark room. So the things that you see in the ending sequence, they still were pretty funny. It's a very funny ending. I just wish the lights hadn't cut on there. It kind of just threw me out of the loop a little too early. You could kind of hear like a collective sigh from the audience of just like, is it over? Is it over? No, we haven't gotten an ending. Like, it just really felt like we were being kicked out, like here, get out of here, degenerates. You got your screen time, you got your anime movie. No, go on with the rest of your life, I've been to movies before. I've seen a movie or two in my life. So I know that the credits, once the credits are playing, like the actual credits, that the lights cut on. So maybe it's a timed thing, but I've never worked at a movie theater, so I can't tell. If it is something like that, where it's timed so that the staff can have enough time between screenings to get all the cleaning done and they can see, that makes a lot of sense to me. But if it's something that at least can be controlled by the guy in the projector room, then he should have damn caught that. Nonetheless, it did not ruin the experience. I'm just nitpicking at this point. Science Saru already had all of my support going into this because of what they've done with the Scott Pilgrim adaptation. If I'm looking just at the key visuals, I can see, the resemblance between Dandadan and Scott Pilgrim, or how they would go about adapting the two, or using one to help adapt the other. But just going into this, when I first heard about this anime coming out, once I saw that was on Science Saru's track record, I was like, oh, this is gonna be fine. Needless to say, they delivered here as well. Then again, like I said before, all I've really had to go into this was the opening. I didn't watch any of the leaked Netflix episodes, or I don't even know if the opening sequence itself, like the visuals for it, were leaked when the song was leaked. So really am just going off of the song here. And I really, I was hell bent on that too. I think I've mentioned this in my previous stream. I assumed if the vibes from the opening were very accurate, or told a story that, you were going to see throughout this first season, then you'd get something that started off dark and scary, followed by something wacky, and then, a bit of wonder, and then that beauty and friendship, that romantic aspect of it. If you just listen to the opening, it's exactly what it sounds like. In the beginning, you get really dark drums. I've already talked about this on stream, but it's all good. You get these like really dark drums and something that's like heart pounding, and then you get something very wacky, which kind of sounds like the aliens in it. And then you get that wondrous feeling of like, all right, maybe we can come together and then do this. And then the ending of the opening is like very like the power of friendship type of thing. Not to say that, this series upgrades and the fights in this will be determined by power of friendship. I just mean like, it does feel like that friendship overcomes all aspect towards the end of the opening song. Like I said, I talked about this or ranted about it in detail on stream. So if you want to hear me, geek out over the creepy nuts, then you can look for that, I guess. Either way, I really do feel like Creepy Nuts did a terrific job at articulating all of the emotions that Dandadan throws at you in just a 1 minute and 20-second song. It's done that, I think, in each of the 3 episodes that I watched, and also what I would assume throughout the rest of the series, the rest of the season. With that said, I was really, how would I say this? Particular when watching the opening sequence for the first time, right? I've heard it before, I know what to expect. Now I was really hell-bent on making sure that what I thought the series sounded like was portrayed accurately in the visuals, or if I was surprised by it, then I would at least be attentive to that and go, okay, well maybe I was a little bit off about the vibes of the opening and this is what it is now, but it matched perfectly. And no, that's not me like stroking my ego or something like that to be like, oh, I was right about this. No, that's like, I just mean that the visuals that I saw on screen, they matched very well with what the song sounded like, and it also did a good job at portraying all of the emotions that Dandadan throws at you without it feeling like it's switching around too much. And I think the show does this as well. Like, the show is very fast paced, so there's a lot of mood changes, but it doesn't do so drastically. It doesn't feel disconnected or disrespectful of, the emotion that it's making you feel right before the switch, Like, even at the song's climax, it still looks very weird and specific to Dandadan, rather than, generic forms of dark, scary, wacky, wonder, and beauty. It feels like all of those words, but in the context of Dandadan itself. This opening was basically made for the theater. Like, I feel like if the speakers in the theater weren't so low, then hearing those initial drums from the opening, I feel like people would have started to cheer or started to panic in a way, because you see the visuals and you feel like they're made for theater. I can picture myself watching Dandadan every Wednesday or whenever the episodes come out, on my couch with the lights off and maybe being a little spooked by some of the monsters I see. But seeing that in the theater, I was like, wow, this is very close to a jump scare, some of the visuals here. I know, I'm a huge pussy, but I just mean that they really do stand out way better in the theater. I've only ever really been able to see the identity of the series through the images on Viz that I'd scroll past from time to time while looking for One Piece chapters, but I always thought it stood out as something that was beautifully drawn, and that's why I got the volume. Again, it happened again. I got the volume. I was like, I'm gonna read it, and then the anime got announced, and I was like, well, shit, I guess this is another useless volume for me. But if I'm just basing this off of the few screenshots of the manga that I've seen so far, I would definitely say that the anime meets those expectations. It's a good adaptation, okay? And I know that I dare say that as an anime only, but that just means I'm not jaded like the rest of you, because I already know that someone's out there typing up an essay-long Reddit post talking about how the hair tones didn't match in the anime as they did, like, in the manga. Oh my god, they didn't shade this correctly or something like that. I didn't see much talk about the anime, other than joy that there was an adaptation coming out when the anime was first announced, but I'm pretty sure someone was out there like looking at frame by frame of the teaser trailer like, nah, this is gonna suck, bro. I'm just here to tell you that those people are overreacting and there's no need to panic yet, at least. Basically, if you're a manga reader or just someone who's interested in the anime because you saw, a screenshot of it and you couldn't make it to the screening, you will have a good time watching this season. Trust me. I went back and read the first 6 or so chapters that, the first 3 episodes cover, and I can tell you that it was faithfully and beautifully adapted. Any changes that were made were minor and beneficial, at least from the perspective of video. Don't worry, your favorite characters have not been ruined as of yet. As of the first 3 episodes, they have not been ruined. But again, I'm an anime only, so if you don't believe me, just ask the cast and crew. So before the episode started during the screening, we got about 15 minutes of exclusive interviews with the cast, the crew, the creators, and the animation director or whatever the hell. Y'all better give me the fattest like, because trying to do research for this bit or trying to do my due diligence after watching this, I spoiled something major about Mushoku Tensei, so I need something. I need something back. As always, it's nice to get some insight on what goes into an anime adaptation, and it was a pleasant surprise since I had no clue that this would be included anyway. But it did satisfy my suspicion of exactly how they'd be turning 3 20-minute episodes into a runtime that exceeded an hour, because I was like, they're not gonna replay the openings between each episode, right? Like, it's gonna be one long thing. This is barely gonna be an hour long. How do they justify screening this? Shion Wakayama, voice of Momo and now the bane of my existence, got to talk about how she studied Gyaru culture to prepare for the role. Natsuki Hanae, the voice of Okarun, and nobody else, talked about his decision to show the difference between the 2 ends of Okarun's personality. Basically, how he goes from a timid nerd to a confident asshole in 0 seconds flat. Yukinobu Tatsu talked about how he and his editor, Shihei Rin, decided on the dick joke, which was a pretty funny story. To sum up, he focused on keeping Okarun's conflict within a 3-foot radius or a 3-meter radius. I don't know. It's probably a saying. Basically, everything that happens to him has to be immediately noticeable and something that can immediately affect Okarun. And I gotta say, it's a pretty effective solution because what else is gonna make a young boy or any man out there shudder as fast as having his dick stolen? Spoiler, nothing. It's very reminiscent of Chainsaw Man's simple starting premise. You know, he wants to touch a boob or whatever. But maybe that's on purpose because if you didn't already know, Tatsu was an assistant on Chainsaw Man and I think also Hell's Paradise. For Momo, Rin made Tatsu read about 100 romance manga in preparation for her part, or to write her, which was impressive, you know, to hear at least. It made me focus a little more on Momo's actions and whether or not they fit to the shoujo framework. Also, whether or not they fit to the standard of someone who's studied romance manga. It's very hard for men to write women well, so props to both of them for doing a good job at it so far. As of right now, like I said earlier, she's developing like a magical girl. Now, on to the thing that probably drove you to this video in the first place, because I may or may not have focused on it for the thumbnail. I don't know. I'm still in present time, so I don't know what I've done for the thumbnail yet. I haven't decided. And that would be the differences between the anime and the manga. That didn't have enough energy to it. The differences between the anime and the manga. There you go. That's more AniTube, right? There are a few of them, and they're very small, but they make sense from a video perspective. And they also just weren't the point of this video when I started to write it. So, you know, I'm gonna go through them as quickly as possible and give context wherever it needs to be. Now, we're gonna put an if I remember correctly at the beginning of all of these numbers or all of these differences because I only went to one screening and I did not go with a notebook. I went as a viewer. So, you know, my memory might be shoddy on a couple of these, but I don't know, maybe I'll just mark the ones that I, you know, am not too sure about with an asterisk. But I'm like 100% sure on most of these. 1, there is no ominous foreshadowing of the paranormal sites. The anime basically starts on page 3, or 4 if we're counting the cover page. 2, Momo sits behind her face-painted friend whose name I do not know, probably so, you know, she doesn't have her back turned to the camera. 3, Obama is no longer in this magazine, nor is he referenced. I think the word the president is used instead. 4, Momo is on the stairs in this shot instead of being in the hallway with Okarun. I guess to pose her as a higher in status person, you know, than him, at least to herself, because later when they're actually fighting, you know, over the magazine or, you know, when they're arguing in the hallway, you see her friend's perspective, you know, basically talking down on them or talking lowly of her. And they're also on the stairs. 5, Turbo Granny's appearance is pretty much the same here, except that there's like a 180 pan that reveals her rather than a page turn. But I guess a page turn would count as a whatever. It's still a pretty good jump scare. 6, Okarun does not make it out of the tunnel here. The tunnel's entrance instead becomes impossible to reach, so it gets further away as he runs. It's like that first episode of JJK season 2. It is funny how they cut the bike here because in the very last moments of the 3rd episode, Okarun and Momo need to ditch their bike on the way back to Turbo Granny because they need to take the train, where they realize it's too far to go on bike, so they end up taking the train. 7, I forgot to say this earlier in the video or earlier in my recording, even though I had it in the script, but the Serpo reveal is different in the anime than the manga, obviously, but it was also spoiled to me by the director of the anime himself in the interviews before the screening of the episodes. Like, he legit tells you, hey, I had to do certain things differently. For example, in the manga, the Serpo are revealed this way, but, you know, I decided to have them appear during a light flicker sequence, you know? Which sucked for me, and that was like the biggest nitpick of the entire thing that I completely forgot to leave out even though I wrote it in the script. But yeah, instead of just appearing as a page turn, they appear like, you know, by the lights flickering down the hall continuously, and then you get to see them. Number 8, one thing the manga readers will enjoy is that a lot of these bits where Momo and Okarun are arguing in dialogue boxes as just little heads are fully animated now. Number 9, the most important thing here, for those dreading having to explain that first alien scene, you know which one I'm talking about, to new readers or new, you know, audience viewers, why the fuck? It's cool. It's not nearly as sexual seeming in the anime. You know, I noticed when reading back, there's some intensity around the resistance to the Serpo's hypnosis and how Momo just seems a little more victimized than shown to have strong will during the scene. Like, you know, she's definitely still resistant in both versions, but she seems a lot more submissive. I don't even know the proper word to call this. As someone who watched it live and felt a little uncomfortable from it, I can say that going back and reading it made me feel way more uncomfortable. So, you know, we should be okay. It's still very touchy, but, you know, I think they handled it very well in the anime, or as well as they could. So again, yeah, shout out to the director and Science Saru. Number 10, speaking of, you know, Science Saru doing things very well, when Momo finally gets her roundhouse kick off against the Serpo, the anime emphasizes the relation this kick has to her first attempt on her ex. I think if I was just reading the manga, I would not have gotten, at least upon the initial read. Number 11, the anime also does a great job at truly showing us the blooming of Momo and Okarun's relationship, or I guess their friendship. Once they exit the UFO, instead of telling Okarun to put his clothes back on and, you know, basically turn around and pick him up from the floor, you see a shot of Momo's hand reaching out with his clothes. Simple gestures like this, you know, are emphasized in the anime, and it makes their relationship, or I guess the moments between them, feel a lot more wholesome and genuine, I guess. Number 12, The Ken Takakura moment looks exactly like a shoujo in the manga. You would think that these things in the background are like cherry blossom petals, even though they're probably just also just still embers. But the anime version is more upfront with this, and it's more reminiscent of the proposal scene from, I think, episode 1 of Spy Family. Might have been episode 2. You know, the UFO explodes right behind Momo when Okuru says his real name, and so it's kind of played as this cute, funny, over-the-top moment where Momo's the butt of the joke, but also forced to come to the realization that her heart just skipped a beat, or at least confront that fact. Number 13, if I remember correctly, the Flatwoods monster explanation is not accompanied by a visual, or this visual that you see on screen, but again, I could just be misremembering this. I swear I was looking directly at the screen when this was happening, but when I went back to go read the manga chapter that I was associated with, I was like, I don't remember this. So, disclaimer on that. Number 14, I could also just be misremembering the spots on its legs here when it regains its footing after, you know, its hands chopped off. When I saw this in the anime, I thought it initially shifted its legs to another part of its body, like it absorbed its legs and then just popped them back out. But when I'm reading the manga, I see polka dots and I'm like, well, I don't remember polka dots in the anime, and I remember being slightly confused as to what happened to its previous leg. So maybe it was changed, or maybe it's just less emphasized in the anime. Or maybe it's more emphasized in the manga, so, you know, the polka dots can basically tell the reader, hey, these are new legs. Again, time will tell with that one. We'll see 3 weeks from, you know, the start of the series. Number 15. The taxi driver's dialogue is flipped around a bit for comedic effect here. He first asks Seiko if she's a medium, and then she asks to be let out. And it's only at that point the driver reveals he was just curious and wanted to see her powers in action. Whereas in the manga, he kind of says that up front. 16. Finally, again, disclaimer, I may be misremembering this last one. Turbo Granny and the Bound Spirit look a little different combined during Seiko's explanation here. Either that, you know, either they have a different design in the anime versus the manga, or colors are just very confusing. This is the one that I think I'm the least sure about. But that's it. At least that's all I could really tell, you know, while going through, while skimming the manga on the shitter. Again, I only attended one screening of this, so if I didn't catch all 176 differences, I'm very sorry. I am only human. I think it's obvious. I'm looking forward to seeing where the rest of this series goes, and you know, once the anime is done with its season 1, I will continue to read it. But I alone have hyped myself up for this series, so I alone am to blame if I am disappointed by it. I alone am the disappointed one. We've got about 3 weeks before these episodes officially start to roll out on you know, streaming services or whatever. So I'm very eager, but I'll be patiently waiting because I know I'll be more than occupied with other endeavors. I forgot to write official things for my final thoughts, so I'm really just gonna be rambling here. But yeah, I just realized that I forgot that the dude who did Chainsaw Man's score is also doing this score. So it's all a conspiracy. It's all Chainsaw Man, Hell's Paradise, Dandadan. It's all a major conspiracy to make really good anime. So if you're someone who's going into this blind, planning on being just an anime only, if you're someone who's read the manga and just didn't get the chance to attend the screening, and you're just using this video for some reason as like a think before you buy type of thing, trust me, you will be either pleasantly surprised, pleasantly whelmed, or just satisfied as a viewer. It's faithful. It's a good adaptation. The characters are funny. So yeah, at the very least, even if you don't like the other things, you will definitely laugh. And if you're not someone with a sense of humor, you'll at least be able to marvel at all of the great visuals from this anime so far. And again, we're only 3 episodes in. We've yet to get to the first major fight, and it looks beautiful consistently. Again, I was in a theater, couldn't freeze frame and you know, catch the worst frames possible of it, but I'm pretty sure there aren't many to look at. There's not much to nitpick here. I look forward to covering this. I probably will be away once the 4th episode comes out. Let me see. Yeah, I will definitely be missing 2 of these episodes, but it's cool. This video is going to come out this week, about 3 weeks or so before the official release, or 2 weeks before the official release. So we have time. When I get back, I will cover the other episodes that I've missed. I'll probably also be trying to cover Uzumaki, so I might have to make a choice there. But yeah, I look forward to talking more about this series in the future, whether or not it's the anime or the manga later on. So see you around. Have a good day. Be safe. Bye.